Welcome to Echoing Tales. Tonight's story is titled Room 304 Echoes of the Past. This is a story where the past collides with the present in the shadowy halls of an old hostel. Picture a place where every whisper carries a hidden truth and every corner hides a secret. Tonight, we dive into the mysterious disappearance of Tanya Shah, a senior who vanished without a trace. What was found in a room that left everyone in shock? And why do strange occurrences still haunt the hostel? If you would like to listen to the story in Hindi, you can visit our channel Echoing Tales. Just search for Kamra 304 बीते कल की गूंज. We didn't understand the commotion at first. When we walked into the hostel that evening, the sight of a police officer standing with our matron, flanked by an elderly couple and a young man, seemed out of place. They were arguing, their voices strained with worry and fear. Whispers spread through the hostel like wildfire. The old couple was here for Tanya Shah, one of our seniors in the hostel. Tanya, it seemed, had left for home 2 days earlier, but never arrived. As we stood there, frozen in the hallway, memories of the past few months came rushing back like a wave, pulling us into the dark tide of events we had tried to forget. It all began during our first year in college. There's something about first year college life that feels like an adventure, especially when you're far from home, navigating a world that's both thrilling and daunting. This story is from my time as a first year engineering student in a college situated in the heart of a bustling Indian city. It was a time before Instagram, Facebook, or even mobile phones. Friendships were forged in person, over shared meals and late night conversations in the hostel. We were a group of 5 girls, all in the electronics branch of engineering, and we instantly bonded over our shared grievances, the terrible mess food, the strict curfews imposed by our seniors, and the lack of privacy in the dormitory we were all forced to share. The 5 of us, Navya, Neeta, Riya, Anjali and I had formed an unbreakable bond. We were from different cities, different backgrounds, but that only made our friendship stronger. Our dorm was on the ground floor, just beside the mess hall and the recreational room. Seniors had the luxury of individual rooms on the upper floors. We weren't allowed to set foot in the recreational room, an unwritten rule strictly enforced by the seniors. Our college had a tradition. First year students had to visit every senior's room to introduce themselves. Most seniors would make us sing, dance, or perform some ridiculous task. Some seniors were indifferent, barely looking up as we mumbled our introductions. But there was one room we hadn't visited, room 304 on the 3rd floor, belonging to a senior named Tanya Shah. Every evening after college, we knocked on her door, but it remained shut. Weeks passed and our irritation grew. Tanya's aloofness became a topic of daily discussion among us freshers. Why wouldn't she open the door? What was she hiding? We started to notice little things. How Tanya would slip out of her room at odd hours, always alone, and always with an air of detachment. She never mingled with the other seniors, never lingered in the common areas. It was as if she existed on the periphery of our lives, a shadow that we couldn't quite grasp. Eventually, the hostel president allowed us to skip her room, much to our relief. But the mystery of Tanya lingered. Then came the Shira break, an important Indian festival. Most of the hostel emptied out as students left for their hometowns. The five of us decided to stay back to finish a group project. The first day of the break was pure joy, with the hostel almost to ourselves, free from the watchful eyes of the seniors. We reveled in our newfound freedom, sneaking into the recreational room, watching TV, and sharing ghost stories late into the night. On the second night, around 3 am, I needed to use the restroom. Our hostel was built around a central courtyard with a covered passage in front of the rooms and a common toilet on the other side. As I stepped out of the dormitory, something made me pause. The moonlight filtered through the trees, casting long, spindly shadows on the ground. As I took a step forward, my gaze was drawn upward to the third floor passage. That's when I saw her, Tanya Shah. She was standing silently, staring into the darkness, her figure barely illuminated by the dim courtyard lights. Her eyes were wide, staring straight ahead, unblinking, as if she were in a trance. There was something unnerving about the way she stood, so still, so detached from the world around her. I burst through the door, startling my friends who were still awake. "What's wrong?" Navya asked, her voice tinged with concern. I saw her," I stammered, struggling to catch my breath. Tanya, she's standing outside her room on the third floor." The room fell silent, the fear I had felt now shared by all of us. That's impossible," Anjali muttered, shaking her head. "She left 2 days ago, didn't she?" "Maybe she didn't leave," Neeta suggested, her voice low. "Maybe she's still here, watching us." A shiver ran through me as I recalled the way Tanya had stared into the distance, her expression devoid of any emotion. There was something deeply unsettling about her, something that sent a chill down my spine. Then Neeta, ever the bold one, suddenly grinned. "I've got an idea," she said, her eyes glinting with mischief. "Let's give her a taste of her own medicine. We'll spook her for once." The others looked at her in surprise, then slowly nodded in agreement. Before I knew it, I was donning Anjali's long white gown, my hair loose and wild, the perfect ghostly figure. "Just run across the courtyard," Neeta instructed, her excitement palpable. "Don't look up, just run straight past her. We will watch from here." I swallowed hard, nodding as I stepped out into the courtyard once more. The night was eerily quiet. I kept my head down, just as Neeta had said, and ran across the courtyard, my gown billowing behind me like a spectral form. I could feel the cold air whipping through my hair, the sense of being watched growing stronger with each passing second. I dare not look up, fearing what I might see if I did. When I finally made it back to the dormitory, I threw open the door and rushed inside, my breath coming in short, sharp bursts. My friends were waiting, their faces pale, their earlier excitement replaced by something darker. What happened? Did I scare her?" I asked, my voice trembling as I tried to catch my breath. But instead of the expected laughter, there was only silence. They exchanged nervous glances, the atmosphere heavy with an unspoken tension. Finally, Ria spoke, her voice barely more than a whisper. "She didn't move," she said, her eyes wide with fear. "Not even an inch. She just stared." Navya nodded, her face ashen. "It was like she knew what we were doing," like she could see us watching her. It was creepy. A sense of dread settled over us as we sat in the dim light of our room. The prank that had seemed so harmless now feeling like a grave mistake. What if she tells the seniors? Anjali said, her voice trembling with fear. What if we get into trouble? Neeta, who had been the most confident, now looked uncertain. She won't, she said, though her tone lacked conviction. She probably didn't even care, but her words did little to reassure us. We couldn't shake the feeling that we had disturbed something, that our prank had crossed a line we shouldn't have. That night, none of us slept well. The next morning, we anxiously waited for Tanya to confront us. But she didn't appear. During the evening roll call, her name wasn't mentioned. Curiosity got the better of Navya, who asked the matron about Tanya. The reply was like a punch to the gut. Tanya had left for our hometown 2 days ago. We were terrified. Who had we seen that night? We reassured ourselves that it might have been another senior whom we had mistaken for Tanya. After the vacation, we were finally relieved when Tanya returned. We felt a sense of comfort in knowing that it had indeed been someone else we had seen that night. The fear that had gripped us began to fade, but our relief was short-lived as we noticed Tanya's condition. She looked even more withdrawn and frail, barely eating, never speaking. We watched her from a distance, unsure of what to make of her state. She barely interacted with anyone, and when she did, it was with a vacant expression, her mind clearly elsewhere. Then, one evening as we returned from our class, we noticed an unusual scene in the visiting room. The usually quiet space was filled with tension. A police officer stood talking to the matron, while an elderly couple and a young man, who we soon learned were Tanya's parents and brother, sat nearby, their faces etched with worry and sorrow. Unable to contain our curiosity, we asked the senior what was happening. The news she shared sent a shiver down our spines. Tanya had left the hostel just a few days after returning from the Dashera break, claiming she was unwell and needed to go home. But she never made it. Her parents, thinking she was still at the hostel, had been frantically searching for her when they learned she had left. Now, she was missing. The entire hostel was abuzz with speculation. What had happened to Tanya? Where could she have gone? Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said she had run away. Others whispered darker theories. But no one knew for sure. The police were involved, searching for any clue that might explain her disappearance. But Tanya was gone, vanished without a trace. We decided not to mention our encounter that night. Days turned into weeks, and slowly the intensity of the initial panic began to fade. People moved on, the routines of college life resuming their usual pace. But for us, Tanya's disappearance was a wound that refused to heal. One day, the matron called us to clear out Tanya's room, as her family would be coming to collect her belongings. We didn't want to do the job, but as freshers, these odd tasks were often assigned to us. Reluctantly, we began packing up her things and stumbled upon a diary hidden inside the lining of her mattress. As we flipped through the pages, we found a newspaper cutting neatly folded and tucked between the pages. The headline caught our attention immediately. Tragic accident claims life of local girl. Twin sister survives. The article was dated a few years back and detailed a horrific accident that had taken the life of a young girl named Manya Shah. As we read further, we realized that Manya was Tanya's twin sister and that the accident had occurred not far from their home. The article described how the two sisters had been crossing a busy street when a speeding car appeared out of nowhere. Manya, seeing the danger, had pushed Tanya out of the way, taking the full impact herself. Tanya survived with minor injuries, but Manya tragically lost her life, saving her sister. The article described how the accident had left Tanya devastated, a shadow of her former self. Friends and family had recounted how the once vibrant and lively Tanya had withdrawn into herself, haunted by the loss of her sister. It was clear that Manya's death had shattered Tanya's world, leaving her isolated and burdened by grief. As we read the cutting, a deep sadness settled over us. The puzzle pieces began to fit together: Tanya's withdrawal and her strange behavior. As we shifted through the fragile pages of Tanya's diary, the weight of her loneliness and grief became painfully clear. The entries were addressed to Manya, her twin sister, written as if she was still alive, as if Tanya was speaking to her directly. The last entry sent chills down our spines. Dear Manya, Tanya had written, I haven't seen you these past few nights. I don't understand why you are not visiting me anymore. I keep waiting, hoping to hear your voice, to feel your presence. Did I do something to upset you? I've been so lonely, and now even your nightly visits have stopped. I need you, Manya. Please come back. I don't know how much longer I can bear this. The entry was followed by a scrawled note. I feel as if something is wrong. The nights are so empty without you. I don't know what happened, but I need you to come back to me. I'm afraid. This entry was dated the day before Tanya supposedly left for home before her disappearance. We sat in silence, the weight of the discovery pressing down on us. The diary, with its tales of pain and loneliness, painted a tragic picture of a girl who had lost everything that mattered to her. A year later, we finally had our own rooms, and a new batch of juniors occupied the dormitory. One early morning, as the new batch of juniors settled into the hostel, a peculiar incident unfolded. The freshers, still adjusting to their new surroundings, were talking among themselves in the mess. Two girls, they said, had been standing on the third floor passage, talking and laughing. The juniors swore the girls looked identical. The blood drained from our faces as we realized what they were describing. We never told them about Tanya and Manya. To this day, I wonder if they found each other, if they are still wandering the halls of the hostel, looking for the peace they never found in life. And every now and then, when the night is still and the wind whispers through the corridors, I think I can hear them. Two voices, soft and distant, laughing in the darkness. They were never alone, and perhaps neither are we. This is an original work of fiction created by this channel, Echoing Tales, blending suspense and mystery. Join us as we unravel a story shrouded in mystery and eerie echoes every week. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like the video, and be sure to hit the bell icon for more Echoing Tales. So, until we meet again in the next story, stay vigilant, and before you sleep tonight, don't forget to take one last look into the darkness.